My name is Samuel. I'm 82 years old, and the hardest thing I'm going to tell you today isn't about a stranger. It's about someone I trusted completely. I want you to stop whatever else you're thinking about right now, because what I'm about to share with you isn't something I read in a book. It's something I lived. And when I finally understood what had actually happened to me, what had been happening for years right under my nose, I felt sick. Genuinely sick. Not because the enemy had been so powerful, but because the enemy had been so friendly. I've been a Catholic man my whole life, raised in the faith, baptized as an infant, confirmed at 14, married in the church. I've had my struggles. I've had seasons where I drifted, but I always considered myself someone with enough spiritual sense to recognize danger when it was close. I was wrong. There was a period in my late 50s, I won't give you every detail, where I had a friendship that I thought was one of the great gifts of my later years. This person came into my life at exactly the right moment. They understood me in ways I couldn't explain. They said things I needed to hear. They made me feel less alone. And over the course of about 3 years, they quietly, carefully, systematically dismantled almost everything that had kept me anchored to God. I didn't see it happening. That's the part that still troubles me most. I came across the work of Father Dan Ray Hill years later, an exorcist who has performed more exorcisms than most priests will encounter in an entire lifetime. And when I read what he had documented about demonic influence operating through human relationships, through friendships specifically, I felt something cold move through me. Because he was describing, almost word for word, what I had experienced. Father Ray Hill has stated clearly and repeatedly that one of the greatest and most dangerous mistakes people make is assuming that demonic presence always looks like something from a horror film. Levitation, voices, eyes rolling back. That's not how the most effective attacks work. The most successful demonic attacks, he says, happen when the victim doesn't even know they're being attacked. Think about that. If something appeared in front of you right now with red eyes and claws, you'd run, you'd pray, you'd call for help. But what if that same entity appeared as someone who laughed at your jokes, who called you just to check in, who told you that you were the most interesting person they'd ever met? What if it appeared as your closest friend? That's the real battle, and most people lose it because they don't know they're fighting. Father Ray Hill has identified 8 specific warning signs that appear consistently in cases of demonic oppression that begin through relationships. I want to walk through every one of them, and I want you to be honest with yourself as I do, because at least one of these is going to sound familiar, and if it does, you need to keep listening. The first sign is isolation. You see, demons need you alone. They need you disconnected from genuine sources of spiritual strength. And they are patient about achieving that. The process doesn't happen overnight. A demonic influence disguised as a friend won't tell you on week 2 to stop seeing your family. That would be too obvious. Instead, they plant seeds, small comments, subtle suggestions. Your family doesn't really understand you. Your old friends are holding you back. The people who love you are actually the problem. Father Ray Hill calls this slow poisoning. The narrative builds carefully over months. Every conversation somehow circles back to how everyone else in your life is failing you. Your parents are overbearing, your spouse is controlling, your priest is out of touch, your church is full of hypocrites. And the person saying all of this frames it as honesty, as bravery, as finally being real with you in a way no one else dares to be. Honestly, I remember sitting across from my friend at a diner and nodding along as they said something like that about my wife. And I remember feeling grateful that someone finally saw things clearly. It took me years to understand what was actually happening. I was being separated, slowly, deliberately, from every person who might have noticed what was going on and said something. Because once you're isolated, once you've pushed away the people who love you, the influence has complete freedom to operate. That's when the second sign begins: spiritual confusion. Father Ray Hill has documented case after case where people under demonic influence suddenly find themselves unable to pray, unable to concentrate at Mass, feeling physical anxiety or discomfort when they try to engage in religious practice. And almost always, there is a new person in their life who just happens to have strong opinions about faith. This friend may not attack your beliefs directly. They might even claim to be spiritual. But watch the pattern. They introduce doubts. They ask questions designed to erode rather than explore. They recommend books, videos, practices that sound enlightened, but pull you away from Christ. They talk about energy, the universe, finding your own truth. It all sounds open-minded and positive, but the end result is always the same. You drift from the sacraments. You stop praying the rosary. You start seeing the church as restrictive rather than protective. Let me explain why this matters so much. Father Ray Hill is direct about this. Demons hate the sacraments. They hate genuine prayer. They hate anything that connects you to the grace of God. So if a friendship is consistently moving you away from those things, even gently, even subtly, that is a serious warning sign. And here's the part that's easy to miss. The person doing this may not even know they're doing it. Demonic oppression can work through people who are themselves victims, being used as tools without any awareness of it. The third sign is moral compromise, and this is where it becomes truly dangerous, because it doesn't begin with anything dramatic. A demonic influence disguised as a friend never pushes you towards serious sin immediately. They start with small things. They normalize what you know is wrong. They make you feel rigid, outdated, too serious. They celebrate your vices as if they were virtues. Father Ray Hill talks about this in terms of gradual erosion of conscience. A friend who encourages you to lie just a little, who laughs when you're cruel to someone, who pressures you towards sexual sin or substance abuse and frames all of it as freedom, as self-expression, as finally releasing yourself from shame. And here's what I didn't understand then. At first, it feels like relief, because sin often does. But what's actually happening is that your conscience is being burned. Your ability to recognize wrong is being compromised. And the enemy knows that once you've crossed certain lines, once you've normalized certain behaviors, it becomes easier and easier to pull you deeper into darkness. Father Ray Hill has seen this pattern in exorcism cases. The person didn't wake up one day possessed. They made a series of small decisions, often encouraged by someone they trusted, that opened doors. And once those doors opened, something walked through. The fourth sign is emotional manipulation. Demons are masters of this. An influence operating through a friendship will use every emotional technique available. They will flood you with affection, making you feel more understood and valued than you ever have. Then they'll withdraw, leaving you desperate for their approval. They'll create drama and position themselves as the only one who can help you through it. They'll make you feel guilty for other relationships, for setting limits, for questioning anything they say. Father Ray Hill describes this as a form of spiritual abuse. The goal is emotional dependency, making you feel you cannot survive without this person. And I was scared when I recognized this in my own experience, because I remembered feeling exactly that way. The thought of losing that friendship had felt unbearable at times. I had defended this person to my wife, to my children. I had ignored things that should have been obvious. That's what this kind of manipulation does. It doesn't just attack your mind, it attacks your identity, your capacity to think clearly, and it uses the language of love and friendship to do it. The fifth sign is involvement in occult practices. Now I know that might sound dramatic, but Father Ray Hill has documented this so many times that he considers it one of the clearest markers. Your friend might introduce tarot cards as something fun, suggest trying a Ouija board at a gathering, talk about astrology, crystals, meditation practices that seem harmless on the surface. They frame it as self-discovery, as spiritual exploration. But Father Ray Hill is unambiguous. Any involvement in the occult, no matter how innocent it appears, is an invitation to demonic activity. And the enemy often uses trusted friendships as the vehicle for that introduction. Because if someone you love says it's harmless, you're far more likely to try it. Father Ray Hill has performed exorcisms on people whose problems started with something as simple as a friend bringing a Ouija board to a party. What seemed like a joke became something they spent years trying to escape. The sixth sign is opposition to authority and structure. Demons hate order. They hate legitimate authority. They hate anything that provides genuine spiritual protection. So, an influence disguised as a friend will consistently encourage rebellion. Your parents are controlling. Your priest doesn't know what he's talking about. The church's teachings are man-made and oppressive. Trust your own feelings above everything else. Father Ray Hill has seen this pattern too many times to count. Every legitimate authority in your life gets systematically undermined. Every institution that exists to protect you gets framed as the enemy. And it's done in the name of freedom and authenticity. But where it actually leads you is into chaos. Because without legitimate authority, without structure, without the guidance of the church and scripture and sacred tradition, you are exposed. You are vulnerable. And that is exactly where the enemy wants you. The seventh sign is physical and mental deterioration. Father Ray Hill notes that people under significant demonic influence often begin experiencing symptoms that have no clear medical explanation. Chronic exhaustion, nightmares, sleep paralysis, illnesses that doctors cannot identify. And alongside the physical symptoms, mental decline, increasing anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, a sense of hopelessness that never fully lifts. Now, I want to be careful here because not every person dealing with anxiety or depression is dealing with demonic influence. Father Ray Hill is clear about that too. But when these symptoms appear together with the other warning signs, when they coincide with a new relationship or a shift in spiritual practices, that's when you need to pay close attention. And here's what I didn't know at the time. Often the friend who's causing the problem will offer solutions that make things worse. They'll recommend non-Christian spiritual practices. They'll discourage you from seeking help from a priest or a Christian counselor. They'll suggest that medication is harmful or that therapy is a waste of time, all while positioning themselves as the only one who truly understands you. But the help never comes. The symptoms worsen, and the dependency on the friendship deepens. The eighth sign is a complete shift in values and personality. Father Ray Hill has counseled many families who describe watching someone they love become an entirely different person after forming a particular friendship. Someone kind becomes cruel. Someone responsible becomes reckless. Someone who loved their faith becomes hostile toward it. And this isn't normal growth or change. It's a fundamental alteration of character that happens relatively quickly and is almost always connected to one specific relationship. The person themselves may not see it. They might insist they're finally becoming their real self, but everyone around them can see that something is deeply wrong. Father Ray Hill explains it this way. When a demon gains significant influence over a person, it begins reshaping them in its own image. The fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, they disappear. And in their place you see anger, chaos, cruelty, impulsiveness, and a hardness that wasn't there before. And the friend who triggered this change, they celebrate it, they encourage it, they tell the person that this new version of themselves is stronger, freer, more authentic. But what's actually happening is spiritual destruction happening in real time. So what do you do? What do you do if you've recognized yourself in any of this? If you're sitting here right now realizing that someone in your life, someone you've trusted, might be operating as a demonic influence? Father Ray Hill's guidance is clear. It is not easy, but it is clear. First, face the truth. Stop making excuses for the relationship. Stop minimizing the warning signs. What you're experiencing is not a complicated friendship. It's spiritual warfare. And recognizing that, as painful as it is the first step toward freedom. Second, end the relationship completely. Father Ray Hill is firm on this. You cannot maintain a friendship with a demonic influence and expect to win the spiritual battle. Block the number. Remove them from your life. This will feel impossible. You'll feel guilty. You'll miss them. You'll question yourself. But that discomfort is part of the attack. The attachment you feel is not real love. It is a spiritual chain, and it must be broken. Third, return to the sacraments immediately. Go to confession. Attend Mass regularly. Receive the Eucharist. Pray the Rosary every day. Father Ray Hill is emphatic that sacramental grace is the most powerful weapon available against demonic influence. The enemy knows this, which is exactly why they worked so hard to pull you away from it. When you return to the sacraments, you are accessing supernatural protection that no demonic force can overcome. Fourth, seek spiritual direction from a trustworthy priest. Don't try to fight this alone. Find a priest who takes spiritual warfare seriously, who understands the demonic, who can walk with you through this. Father Ray Hill has seen too many people attempt to handle these situations on their own and fail. Fifth, Pray specifically for protection. Pray the St. Michael prayer every single day. Ask for Mary's intercession. Use blessed objects, holy water, a crucifix, a rosary, blessed salt. These are not superstitions. They are sacramentals that carry the blessing of the Church and provide real, documented spiritual protection. Father Ray Hill has seen people who followed these steps experience complete freedom from demonic oppression. The nightmares stopped, the anxiety lifted, the confusion cleared, the pull towards sin weakened, and the false friendship that had caused so much damage lost every ounce of its power. I can tell you from my own experience that when I finally cut that relationship, when I went to confession, when I went back to Mass, when I started praying the rosary again like I hadn't since I was a young man, something lifted. I don't have a more precise word for it than that. Something that had been pressing down on my chest for years simply lifted. And I wept in the confessional in a way I hadn't wept since my wife died. I'm telling you all of this because I'm 82 years old and I don't have the luxury of being polite about things that matter this much. The enemy is real. He is patient. He is intelligent. He has been studying human behavior for longer than any of us can comprehend. And he will use whatever tool is available to him, including the appearance of genuine friendship, genuine love, genuine understanding, to pull you away from God and toward your own destruction. The 8 signs are there if you're willing to look. Isolation, spiritual confusion, moral compromise, emotional manipulation, occult involvement, opposition to authority, physical and mental deterioration, a complete shift in who you are. If you're experiencing any of these things in connection with a specific relationship, do not dismiss it. Do not rationalize it. Do not wait for things to get worse before you act. Your eternal soul is not something to gamble with. No friendship, no matter how good it feels, is worth risking where you spend eternity. If this opened your eyes to something you needed to hear today, I'd ask you to do one thing right now. Leave a comment below and tell me which of these 8 signs hit closest to home for you. I read every comment. At my age, those conversations mean more than you might think. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. What comes next in this series is something I wish I had known 40 years ago, and I don't want you to miss it. God bless you. Stay close to him. That closeness is the one thing the enemy cannot take from you unless you hand it over yourself.